I go to the Hello everyone, we're going live now.
Okay. So, welcome one and all present here. My name is Pavan, and I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I've done 2 masters in psychology, and I'll be the event coordinator for today, an ex-Montfortite. And I would like to first talk about psychological horizon, which is exploring with experts. It's about talking to the experts and getting to know about what are the challenges they face in their occupation as a psychologist or a counselor and what best could be done. It's like you avoid doing a few things, you learn a few things. It's just one way through which I call it primary prevention. You better know a few things before you dive into it. So I'll first of all welcome the moderator, Vishalakshi Sridhar, who's a PhD holder, assistant professor in the Department of Psychology and Counseling Psychology at Montfort College. She also has a PhD in psychology with 15 years of experience as a therapist. She has published several papers in academic journals and has conducted several mental health programs and workshops. I welcome you, ma'am. So, next we have uh, Sneha, who is Sneha Jacob, who is a student counselor at middle and high school college is a school at Bangalore International School. She has a master's in clinical counseling psychology and is a gold medalist. I appreciate it, madam. Uh, she is now the panelist and she'll be the first one to speak, followed by Sahiti Uppala, who is a school counselor at Delhi School of Excellence in Hyderabad. She has a master's in counseling psychology as well, and she has 1 year of experience working with students with learning differences at the Learning Graph in Hyderabad. I welcome you, ma'am. Next, last but not the least, we have Rakesh Kakati, the student counselor at IIT Guwahati. Glad to meet you, sir. He is in this industry since about 6 years of practice in IIT Guwahati. Along with being students counselor, he also offers marriage, family therapy, group counseling sessions for students, faculty members, staffs, and families. He also serves as the member of Campus Wellbeing Committee and Substance Abuse Control and Remediation Committee. He also has practiced in he has a private he also practices in private hospitals as consultant. Welcome you, sir. Over to you, Vishalakshi, madam.
Good evening, all of you, the audience. Welcome, Sahiti, Sneha, and Rakesh. So good to have you all here today to talk about your journey. I'll just start with a brief understanding of where we are in terms of school counseling. Professional counseling in India today is still only around maybe 25 years or so. Unlike the Western world, we do not have a specific master's program in school counseling. So most school counselors hold a master's degree in psychology or counseling psychology, and they adapt to the school context to help students advance in their academic performance and their well-being. So that's very interesting that, since we don't have something like a school counselor program, how the shift has happened to each of you would be a very interesting conversation. And so today, these three young, enthusiastic, and bright individuals as school counselors would be sharing their journey with us. I thought Rakesh would go first, right? Who wants to go first?
Sneha, I
It would
think.
be
Sneha?
Sneha who
Okay,
will
Yes,
go
okay,
Sneha
first.
can go
Yes.
ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sneha, if you can just talk about your journey to becoming a school counselor, that'd be
Okay,
great.
sure.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so it's not that I grew up and knew that I wanted to become a school counselor, but I always wanted to be a special educator. So while I was doing my master's in special education, we had this one course, small as a subject, of counseling. And I was called up to do a role play with the teacher who had been trained in the US, and she had come down just for this course to give us this lecture. So she called me in for this role play, and she told me, okay, now think of think of a hypothetical problem, and we'll do a role play on it. And I couldn't think of a hypothetical problem, so I just gave one of my own problems. And we talked for about half an hour, and I forgot that there were spectators, and it was a class. And there was just a feeling of warmth. It was, I think, the first time I experienced that, and I was like, wow, that felt so good. And I bothered her a million times after that with phone calls to ask her, where can I study this? I want to study this. I want to know how you do it, because she was saying just the right things, so articulate. Yeah, now when I think of it, it was unconditional positive regard and all of that. And I think I saw it before I studied it. So, and then I went on to study it, and I was sure that I wanted to work with teenagers and children specifically, because I think it's a very those are the impactful years. I know certain schools of thought when it comes to psychology think of childhood as, really when you're tiny, and infancy as also very, very important phase of who you become. But for me, I think it was my teenage years that defined me, and I was sure that, that's the age group I want to work with as well. So, yeah.
Okay. But how did you make the transition? Because the course was still, it makes you a generalist in some ways.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you think you made the transition into school counseling?
I think it came naturally, in the sense that, I didn't feel out of place doing it. It was very much something that I felt, trained in, not out of space.
Okay. So in a way, you're saying that the training was good enough for you to make the transition into the workplace.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sahiti, would you like to talk about your journey?
Yes, for sure. So I completed my master's in psychological counseling in 2019, and I took a few months off, thinking, okay, I'll take a break and then I'll get into workforce. By the time I decided to get into workforce, COVID hit. So I'm actually somebody who searched for a job during COVID. So unlike Sneha, for me, it was becoming a school counselor was my goal. Like the minute I decided I wanted to study psychology, it was to become a school counselor. So I had my path set. So I was looking at schools alone because that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't think of anything else. So I kept applying. Because it was offline, I had to send a lot of emails to all the schools possible in Hyderabad. And to my surprise, I had absolutely no responses. Like if I had sent at least 50 mails, I got 0 responses, even though they were open. Like I could see on their websites that they were open for counselors. So I was really stuck, to be honest. And I was like, okay, maybe this is not what I can do in Hyderabad. Things were better in Bangalore, but at least in Hyderabad, for me, it was really hard. So I did reach out to a senior of mine who also did psychology, and she suggested that I look for learning centers. So Hyderabad has a lot of learning centers where we deal with children with learning differences and ADHD. So I started looking out for that, and I pretty much found it very easily. The first few days, in a week, I found a job. But to my surprise, we didn't do anything counseling there. Like it was completely based on like activities, like cognitive activities. There were a few aspects of counseling that I could include, but nothing of the counseling part of it. So I learned on the job. I learned everything from day one on the job, observing. It was a small team, so I had to learn at that point. And I worked there for a year, and then I gained a lot of experience per se. And after that 1 year, I said, okay, I'm going to go back to my calling, what I really wanted to do. So I quit my job, and then I started searching for a role of a counselor again. And then finally I found a job, and that's the job I'm in now. I work as a counselor in Delhi School of Excellence. And what proved to work is that the work I do here is again a lot of dealing with kids with learning differences, because I think schools expect different kind of job roles from each of us as counselors, and I try to push counseling as much as I can, and I try to go to the classes and say, okay, come to me, I'm always there, my door is open. But I see that especially in Hyderabad, at least I've spoken to a few psychologists as well, and we see a trend of dealing with kids with learning differences a lot more, especially slow learners, more than the counseling part itself. So I would say having the experience of dealing with special needs kids or kids with learning differences has really like worked for me in terms of becoming a counselor in a school. Because if I didn't have that 1 year of experience in the learning center, I don't know what I would have done in this job. So that way, I think expanding our horizon in a way in dealing with different things. I know it's a special educator's job, as far as we are concerned, but then institutions do expect you to come up with a lot more than you probably can do at this point. So that was my journey, and
Okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. So, Said, you're saying that that learning center actually
Yes.
provided you a good base to do justice to your job at
Yes.
the school. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, would you recommend something like that for people who want to be in schools to be a school counselor?
Definitely.
Okay.
Especially if it's in Hyderabad, I know that this is a trend because when I reached out to my senior, that's exactly what she said. And she said, if you have experience with this as well, it's an added bonus, right? So when someone's trying to hire you, they also see that you have a counseling degree, but also work with special needs. So you come with both. So it's an
Okay.
added advantage, is what I've heard. And it is exactly what I'm seeing in my workplace as well.
Okay, so that proved actually sensible for your
Yes.
transition into the
Yeah.
school. Okay, okay, so that's actually an interesting point for I think our audience to note that,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of kids do have learning difficulties, much
Yes.
more than we care to admit.
Yeah.
So yes, okay, great. Okay, Rakesh, would you like to talk about your journey? We can't hear you, Rakesh. Are you on mute?
Can you
Yes,
hear me now? Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, journey starts back in 2014. I came back home to my hometown after finishing the course at Montfort. And initially, well, in the Northeast, uh, like compared to rest of India, the awareness on psychology and psychological services it was pretty abysmal at that time. So initially, for a couple of months, it took a little bit of time for me to understand like what direction to take because before that, in my final year in Montfort, I had interned in a school as well as in a rehab center in Bangalore. It's called Safe and Serene. It's an old rehab center for drug addiction and substance dependence, basically, chemical addictions. So I knew what I enjoyed. I enjoyed working with in the drug rehabilitation area, and I also liked working in schools. So after I came back, even though I was looking for work, there was none, pretty much. And these schools, they were coming up with some. They had some idea of maybe a requirement for some counseling or for their students, but there was nothing concrete. So I realized early on that opportunities were not going to come like that. So I decided to create opportunities for myself. Otherwise, I would have not been able to practice here. So I decided to go towards these opportunities and create these opportunities. So I pretty much started dropping my resume everywhere Like, I don't think there's a single school in Guwahati that doesn't have a copy of my resume and my internship experience. So that's how you need to go. I think that's if you've done a subject like counseling psychology, people don't know. So you need to make them aware that they need a counselor, they need a therapist in their organization. So it all started like that. None of the opportunities came to me. I went to those opportunities, and eventually, in 2014, end of 2014, I was working free of cost pro bono at this rehab center here, and gave me a lot more experience in the whole rehab scene. But then in the rehabilitation centers, a lot of ex or people who are in recovery, technically they are in recovery, so they seem to be doing a great job in you know helping other addicts to become sober, to start the journey of sobriety. So yeah, so eventually, in 2015, I joined this day boarding school in Guwahati. It's nationally ranked. I was senior counselor there for good 1.5 years. Along with that, another organization that I dropped my resume at was IIT Guwahati. I met the director there directly. I took an appointment to meet him directly, and then I told him, "You need a counselor, okay? You need people like me, okay? Because even IIT Guwahati was still developing its mindset. Let's say authorities were developing that. They were realizing that there's a need for such professionals. So there was one lady at that time. Nothing again that concrete. Things were building up at that point. So the director kept me. It was ex-director, Mr. Biswas. Um, so ever since then, work has been continuing, and I've had the privilege of working with a lot of clients here, with different kinds of clients, right from school kids to college kids to clinical cases in this private hospital that I was practicing before COVID, and even addicts. And even now, when I get a chance, I try to diversify and look into different areas of work, because I feel Montfort, the training that Montfort gives you, it makes you confident. At least in my case, I felt that there is nothing that was beyond the scope of the training. I mean, you can extrapolate everything, all these counseling skills, uh, from basic to advanced. You can apply it to any population and in any setting, and it's going to work. Because ultimately, we're dealing with human beings and human feelings, no matter the setting. At least it's in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I feel that Montfort really makes you a confident individual, especially the counseling psychology program. It really turns you into a confident counselor. And even over these last few years, I've recommended so many students to join up courses in counseling psychology in Montfort and also in Christ, because Christ also has a good counseling psychology program. Not better than Montfort, though. Montfort is the best. Let me put that very clearly. So yeah, so that's been the journey up till now. It's been fun. It's been I've been very blessed to have these experiences, and I hope newer generations, newer batches will also take an interest in working in this area. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Okay. Okay, so I'll go back to Sneha. So my question is, how equipped did you feel from the training offered by the master's program in counseling to become a school counselor?
So I want to clarify. I think I got a little confused with the previous question, but I'm going to clarify that. So what happened was that after I finished Montfort, I actually got a job in an international school for something called a PSC facilitator. Okay, so this was to do a lot of workshops, right? And everyone told me, okay, it's an international school, just join it, you'll get a foot in, right?
What
And
is
I was
PSC?
so personal social education, so where you
Okay.
do workshops for kids.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I and everyone said, oh, it's a foot into the international school world, so you just take it. But there was no counseling involved. So I took it and I said, okay, I'll do it. And the classes were from grade 1 to grade 12, and every section. Okay, so which meant I was doing like 4, 5, or 6 classes a day, and it was just driving me crazy. And I had to find a curriculum, I had to find material for each workshop topics, and I was getting no counseling experience. So I actually left that job and I did went back to special ed and did special ed, and then the school that I did special ed in thankfully took me as a counselor. So that's how I got into the counseling thing. So it was not easy to get in there initially. To answer your question, you asked me about how it equipped me,
Yeah,
right?
I was just wondering, the counseling, the master's program in counseling,
Yeah.
how good was it for you to become a school counselor?
So I think now when I look back, I know that the one thing that it really helped me with was the ethics. Um, s- I've not seen a college or um, any institution that I don't know, just emphasizes so much on the ethical part of counseling, and practice it all the time, constantly. It's like a living example of all the ethics that they teach you, right? And I think that is the most important part in school counseling that I've realized now, because there's so much parent child interests that are almost different all the time, right? Or there is matters of confidentiality. When do you breach it? And things like that that come in largely in a school setting. And I think Montfort really equipped me, and the master's degree really equipped me with that sound knowledge of ethics, based on which just judgment of, yeah, very basic judgment to do with ethics and confidentiality was emphasized on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, so the same question to Sahiti.
I think I agree with Sneha on this. Like, I think Montfort really equipped us with all kinds of, practical knowledge, especially more than, the theory part of it. I think we were really pushed to have our practicals always. We were really pushed with the counseling sessions that we had to take for ourselves as well. I think that is also something that really helped, because
Personal
unless
therapy.
personal therapy, exactly, unless we are in the room ourselves, I don't think, at least once I started going for personal therapy myself, I was like, okay, see, like, this is how it works, right? That also kind of helped in the sense of getting therapy for myself made sense to me. And I could also advocate the fact that, okay, even counselors, a lot of people are like, oh, it's easy for you to tell us to go to counseling. And I'm like, no, like, all of us have been through personal therapy. So I think that also really helped. And all the practical experience and the group therapy sessions, we got so much exposure into the kinds of therapy that we can do. I think really, really helped in the way that, like Rakesh also mentioned, that got us really confident in the works of therapy. I think, yeah, that way Montfort really equipped us well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in some ways, what I'm hearing you both say is, though it was not a specialized course as in school counseling,
Hmm.
it didn't feel like a struggle to, fit yourself into the role of a school counselor is what I'm hearing you say. Okay. Okay, great. Over to Rakesh. What do you have to say?
Oh, yeah, Sahiti put it in a very nice way. I agree with her. I think why the reason that we came out as confident in our art is because of the practicum that we follow, the whole practicum part of the second year, the supervision. I had Sunita ma'am, and then even Vinod Victor as supervisors, and they were very cutthroat with their, if I may use that term, they are very direct, they're very clear about you know how to approach different situations. that they said you're going to experience, you're going to face these situations again and again in your career. So this is the time to not get defensive, and this is the time to not get, not to, they really opened our minds and our hearts to how to handle different situations. I think that forms the crux of why we came out as all of us, the whole batch, and everybody who goes through this course in Montfort. I think confidence is something that comes naturally after this course because of the design of the program is like that. So I think it's unlike any other. It's very important that this thing continues, and the whole practicum part is even more streamlined. And because initially even I was a little bit or I was a little bit afraid, or I was a little bit concerned whether there would be rehabs in the panel. But then when I went to the coordinator, he had a bunch of rehabs and they were listed. And he said, you can choose one of these. So I gave them the first rehab I called. He said, yeah, of course, we have one for students coming and interning with us. So it was great for me. So I joined it. So yeah.
Okay. So Rakesh, you're saying the rigor of the master's program did help, is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's move to the next question to Sneha. Do you think you need any specific skills or any expertise in certain areas so that you can be an effective school counselor?
I think over the last 5 years that I've been a school counselor, the thing that I've really have had to learn and relearn is developmental psychology. Uh, it's something that I didn't think would be that important to my study, but that book has been used very much suddenly. So I think a lot of focus on that, and also family systems. Just understanding family systems was something that I re-looked into a lot after our course there. So those for me it is those two things, and of course just basic counseling skills, which somehow have a very they're very underestimated. No, so those are.
I completely agree. I mean, skills, I don't think as teachers we underestimate, but skills is a big deal. I mean, you can really do a lot with your skills.
Yeah. As a student, I think we
didn't realize.
I did. Yeah, really.
Okay. So an emphasis on skills and family systems theories and developmental psychology. That makes a lot of sense. Yes. Yeah, Sahiti, do you have anything to say?
I think in my case, like I mentioned, the working with special education as well really worked for me. And I think that is something that people can look into. And like Sneha said, skills, when we were at least when I was in college, it used to be like, oh, why are we repeating this so much? Like, we know the skills, like we've been doing it for like 2 years now, and we're still even in the fourth semester writing skills. So, but yes, I think we underestimate the power of these skills. Even like basic skills like questioning and the right kind of questions really make a lot of difference. And I think that is something that I really like think is important. And I also think management, ma'am, at some level, like especially in school, like you have so many kids and so many parents and so many expectations from these parents as well. Like sometimes they don't understand the role of a counselor. For them, they've put the child across to you and it's your responsibility now. And in a week, the child has to turn into somebody they've never seen before. So I think the management of the way we talk to the parents as well, it just doesn't end at counseling, unfortunately. And I think the balance between getting the administration in the school informed, the parents in touch, getting the kids involved, and making sure they don't miss classes. There's so much administration work also, I feel, that goes into counseling, and it just doesn't end like, okay, I'm going to schedule a call at this time and that's where it ends. So I think that really also got me like thinking, okay, so my job is not just this. So a lot more of admin work as well, I feel like. So you have to be very proactive, you have to be very on the go at all times, is what I feel. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, Saiti,
Yeah.
you have mentioned a few times about the learning differences. Learning to
Yes.
understand learning differences. Are you saying that you are encountering a lot of students with problems?
Yes, I am. In fact, I take classes every day for from first to fifth grade as of now, and I do keep getting referred to a lot of children, especially in first and second grade. So it's becoming more prominent. I think it's awareness, first of all, that even parents are realizing that okay, this means something. Like before, it just used to be, oh, they're just being lazy. So, like, I'm glad that parents are also coming up now and trying to get the help, and especially at the right age. I feel like the more delay there is, it'll be harder. We all know that. So I think that way there are a lot of children I see these days with learning differences, unfortunately. And also, I think a school counselor, as at least for me, we also have to be adept with the rules that CBSE comes up with. Like a few kids are exempted, a few kids can get scribes, a few kids can get extra time. So we also have to keep ourselves updated with what CBSE is coming up with. So I think that's also really important as a part of our job
Mm-hmm.
to best aid the child, right? Like if there is an option for the child to sit out an exam, and let's say a 10th graders can opt out of science and math and take some other subject like painting or home science, so that's an option. So I think it's important to be aware of all of these options that the children also have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because partly it's also to guide them to successfully complete
Yes.
their final exams.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So in some ways, what you're also saying is the learning differences among kids, school kids, is something you need to be able to identify,
Yeah.
and sometimes
And
you
also
might have to
work.
refer or and work with them
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. So that is something, that is a skill which is needed, and
Yeah.
that expertise is something
Yeah.
that's probably important to be a school counselor.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Rakesh, over to you for the same question. What do you think? Do you need any? Do you feel the need for any specific skills or expertise?
Well, in my experience as a school counselor, I if it's if we are talking about the work that we are doing exclusively, I don't feel that there is anything else that needs to be taught in terms of what we are doing in a session. But yes, as Sahiti of course said, all the other stuff like coordinating with the school authorities, who's your point of contact if there is something that, if you need to break confidentiality with a student, or if he has reported a case of sexual harassment or sexual abuse, because that's also quite common nowadays, unfortunately. Who to go to, how to go about it, whether you should. Generally, in my experience, it always goes to the principal, and then we have a meeting as to how to go about it. So these things I feel one learns along the way. I mean, as you progress in your career, as you gain more and more experience in that organization and from elsewhere, I think you grow as a professional, and all these experiences, they make you a better professional with passing with every month and with every year that passes by. So these things, I think, Montfort, of course, equips us with a lot of skills and a lot of experience in our through our internships and through supervisions. But I think at the end of the day, which school we've joined, which part of the country we are in, which course the school follows, and like she said, Saiti said about CBSE and their rules and regulations, these things keep changing from time to time, and how we are able to mold ourselves and mold our practices that I think we need to figure it out along the way.
Okay. Okay. So back to Sneha. What challenges have you been facing as a school counselor?
I think, yeah, really asserting our role as a counselor is one that is a constant challenge. Just being given roles that could actually come like cause conflict, so you're given other roles along with your counselor role. So yeah, to be able to be assertive through that has been a challenge for sure, because you're dealing with people who maybe don't fully understand what your role is, first of all. And then the expectation, like Sarati said, of what the expectation is either too much or too little in that case sometimes, no. So really, you have to assert yourself in terms of what your role will be, and almost always define it for yourself, because job description might be very different from what you're going to do and how far you're willing to go for it. And I think a lot of a school counselor's role is really child advocacy. So now for online classes, right, we had to push for, okay, we can't have this much screen time for children. So in that way, you're not dealing with children, you're dealing with like people who are making administrative rules, no. So there are things like that you will have to put your foot down for, and express your thoughts about. So I think those are things that I didn't think about before, as a student, or as what a school counselor's role is, but they are things that do get added on to the role. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sahiti, what do you have to say?
I think the main challenge for me, especially because I joined the school during the pandemic, I never got to meet the children. And building rapport with kids when they're across a screen from you is a task. So for me, that is the main challenge. Like, I'm just waiting for this to get over so I can meet the kids. For me, that's the biggest challenge, because how much can you push, Vishal? Like Sneha just said, like they are already have so much screen time from the morning to the evening, and then I add one more hour. They're already exhausted. They've had 2 years of online, so they're already on the verge of not on the verge of, half of them are not attending classes. They have their videos off. It's such a pain even for the administration right now to run schools like this. And on that, if I add an hour of, oh, sit with me and talk to me, they're not going to do that, because we know the kind of importance we give to building a rapport with the child first, or any client for that matter. And just building that rapport, having that connection with them, it's becoming really, really hard. And I hope, for the love of God, that we come back to, offline, and I get to meet the kids. So I think that's my biggest challenge right now.
Society, all your challenges seems related to COVID.
Pandemic. Yes, I'm the
Pandemic.
pandemic. I'm the pandemic
School
life.
counselor.
Yeah. So that's my
Okay.
take. Yeah.
So, I mean, probably you would have different challenges once you actually go,
Of course, like, yeah,
in
like
person.
Neha mentioned, I think even the way that she said about the role that you play, like what she was mentioning about the workshops, I am still expected to do them. So as of now, I do counseling, I do special education, I also take workshops. Right? So it's not as intense as she mentioned her first job to be, but then I also do it like on, sometimes. So I think maintaining your role and having a bar at where you're not going to cross and say, okay, this is not my job. I think that's also really important, like she said. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, I've heard people say that sometimes in free classes they are asked to go and
Yeah.
keep the kids engaged.
Yeah.
So I think quite often schools expect you to do many other roles, and maybe your what you teach your clients, assertiveness, is something you need to
You
practice
also need to
as well.
practice. Yeah.
Yes, possible. Yes. Okay. Rakesh, what about you? The challenges that you face?
Okay. So I can speak about like what's going on right now. So one, primarily students here, or because of COVID, they're stuck at home and they're stuck with their computer screens and mobile screens, and they're missing out on valuable time that was supposed to be spent on building relationships and enjoying college life. But then these issues have, let's say, caused a lot of waste of vital time for them. So right now, again, yeah, building rapport with, because here, once the new students join in and BTech programs, we have orientation programs, and we are able to connect with them. We are able to introduce ourselves to them, because again, they have no idea what who a counselor is, because a lot of them come from schools that do not have, well, they do not have a lot of things in those schools, let alone a counselor, because they come from very difficult backgrounds, a vast majority of students. So that is a challenge, connecting with them and not being able to explain to them what we do. But we've developed other methods to reach out and to introduce ourselves. That's one thing. And one more pertinent challenge that I faced after joining this institute is how to manage the image of a counselor, because at many junctions here, we've been asked to be part of disciplinary bodies here for for to assist in the decision making of punishments and the quanta of punishments and all of that. But we've been clear about, at least I have made it very clear that I will not be a part of a body that is involved in any kind of punishments for the students, because that just gives a very wrong kind of an image to the student body. Because a counselor is supposed to be somebody who's going to support you unconditionally, whether you've broken a rule, or whether you've not performed well in your studies, or whether you've been absent from classes or whatever. So this image, and it has taken some time to explain to the authorities that why it is so, why I'm not comfortable being in such a position, because it is at odds to what, at least in my opinion, it is at odds with what we do and what we preach to do. So that is one of the challenges, and other challenges include, like all practices, like all psychologists have faced here as well as outside, a lack of awareness about psychological issues. So that from case to case basis, you will realize that still there's a lot to be done in terms of awareness programs and whatnot. So these things keep coming up every now and then. Then you have to educate them on what psychological illness is, or what psychiatric illnesses are, what is schizophrenia, or what is depression, things like that. You need to explain to them it's not the person's fault, or if he's having a psychotic episode, it's not his fault. And you have to keep repeating these things until they get it, and they do get it. So these are some of the issues that we face on a very regular basis, actually.
Okay. So Rakesh, I think you brought up the same point as Sneha and Sahiti, as to how you need to be assertive, to define your role and not get
Very
into
much so,
roles
very
which
much
are,
so.
yeah, which are in conflict with what you do. Right, right.
Yes,
I
yes.
think, Vishal, there's another thing that I thought of that is actually, I've noticed quite a challenge that I didn't expect was resistance uh, from children, parents. So, that, the child needs it and should take it, but there's resistance from parents. Or the parents, want to refer their child, but then there's resistance from the child. And so even something as simple as where your office is placed, is important. Like if it's in the middle of the corridor or the middle of the school, it's very difficult for a kid to walk into your office, no? So just, yeah, these kind of things that I suppose weren't thought of when the role was given to you, or
Right.
where you would be sitting and things like that. Yeah.
Right, right. And in fact, you can't even be too pally with the other teachers because the kids
Yeah.
assume that, you're
You're
talking them,
telling.
you're
Yeah.
telling them. Yes, so these are challenges. Yes.
It's a very lonely professional, Vishal. That I
Absolutely.
agree with
Absolutely.
you.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah. But then I think we have a whole bunch of counselors in Bangalore, so we should connect more often.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other last thoughts that come to your mind, and then maybe we could take questions from the audience if they have anything else. Because especially if you're a young counselor, and all the authority figures are much older, the principal, and sometimes you're educating them. It's not easy. You're educating the teachers because they are not so exposed to what you're doing and how you're doing. So I think that comes with a
Yeah.
big bunch of challenge.
You made me think of something actually, Vishal. Like, especially if you're unmarried and do not have children, they're just like, you won't understand only. You don't have children, you won't understand. So yeah, I think that is
I
one.
think age has been such a challenge. Like, I don't know how I missed that, but age is like, oh, even the parents, they see you. And I had a PTM today, and they're just judging me, like, on the face. Like, I can see that they're being very judgmental. And they're like, oh, like, what did you study? And I'm just like, okay, like, I understand. Great that you're asking questions, but don't be so upright about judging me on the face.
Yeah, yeah,
And coming to
some
the
proper
administration
ageism.
also, yeah. And coming to the administration, like you mentioned, Vishal, in fact, I am working with my own teachers. And this is like a whole new thing for me because
Experience.
the principal has taught me when I was in school, the HM had taught me when I was in school. So I'm practically working with my teacher. So that relationship is also, the whole dynamic is very, very new and very hard to like navigate through. You don't know where to draw the line sometimes. I think,
Right.
yeah, that is also a challenge.
Yeah, I
But
think you need
age,
to put on a little old makeup. Make
I don't know. I'm supposed to like braid my hair. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I have to look older at this point.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, because you're.
Did you face this, Vishal, when like
No,
you
I was
started?
already much older when I came into this
Ah,
profession, so that
hmm.
made a. I think this is the only profession where age is on your side.
True, true.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and the age gives you some wisdom over the years. You learn
Hmm.
certain
Of
things.
course,
Yes,
yeah.
Sure.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Pawan, are there any questions from the audience? You're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, can you? I
yeah.
mean,
We hear you.
can you see me like straight or
Yeah.
No, no, you're
horizontal?
perfect.
Okay. 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 Before I shoot the question, there are two messages from Brother George. I wanted to read this. So, congratulations, Sahiti, Sneha, and Rakesh, on sharing your personal experiences. The hard work you people have put in during your training has proved useful later on. That's the message for you all from Brother George. Say thank you to him. He's listening on live
Thank
streaming YouTube.
Thank you,
you.
Brother
Thank you, Brother
George.
George. We miss you.
And this is for all the other people in the panel, including you all. Congratulations once again to the team that has volunteered to this great invite. So, this is another message from Brother George. So, the question is one second. I have a question to Rakesh. We have heard that IIT Guwahati is the college for the toppers in the country. Have you faced challenges with students trying to work around their constant pressure to achieve? If so, have you worked or had any problems for them to ease their pressure? This is the question for you, sir. And the mic is yours.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, that's a very common problem here, as to how to manage expectations from your own self. Because here, like these kids, these students, they were you when they cracked IIT and they went back to their hometown, they were paraded on jeeps. and with garlands around their necks, they were paraded in their towns as, as winners. And, they have always been, most of them have always been toppers all throughout their lives. But once they reach IIT, they find out that all my classmates have been like toppers from childhood. So that sometimes causes a huge, it gives them a huge blow to their self-respect and their self-image. So that is a very common issue that we need to address with almost each of our clients, especially the BTech. So this is very common, and then we manage the expectations as to how to conduct themselves in these situations when they feel a sense of a sense of lacking or in their own abilities. And so we work with these issues all the time, and there are ways, and a lot of these students are able to handle it in a matured manner. And with the advent of time, first, second semester, third semester, they're able to understand where they stand. Continues. College life continues after that as well. So, yeah.
I hope the person who asked the question got the answer. I'm sure we got the answer as well. Thank you so much, Rakesh ji, for answering that question. Because it's the need of the hour, is what we understood. Because the pandemic has hit us so hard, and the output is not as we think it will be, even when it comes to the academics, non academics, occupation, anything for that matter. But this is something which shed light on it. The next question is for the panel. Anybody can answer this question. So, can the panelists shed some light on how did they benefit in coping with challenges on their practice, especially when they have been trained by professors who have or have had therapy experiences? This was the question by Apurva Sriram.
Can you repeat the question once,
Yeah.
Pavan?
Sure. Yeah, sure, sir. Can the panelists shed some light on how did they benefit in coping with challenges of their practices, especially when they have been trained by professors who have or have had therapy experience?
Okay, I think if I understood the question right, they're asking how it helped us that the professors already had therapy experience. Is that what they're trying to ask?
Uh, I wish this were offline. We could have
Yeah,
asked them directly.
Clarified the question. Yeah, the
but
question is not so
that's
clear.
Seems like it, yeah.
yeah, it
Exactly. I
seems
asked
like
them to
that.
paraphrase it once again.
Yeah,
So,
but I think if that's the question, I think every professor draws from experience when they're teaching us in Montfort. Like all the professors have had experience or were having experience at the time of teaching us. So I think drawing from their own experiences, they would obviously tell us a lot of cases that they've dealt with, and that kind of personalized training, if I can say so, had really helped us because the amount of theory you read is not going to prepare you for how you're going to deal with things when they're right in front of you. I think the fact that they already have experience and they're drawing from their own experiences shows us and actually taught us a lot more about how they dealt with in real life. So we know that, okay, this is what happens. This is not just in the textbook that we're learning from. So that really at least helped me in terms of drawing from their experiences and realizing how, especially because Vishal was actually my supervisor during my practicum, and she used to tell us any kind of like anything related to the case that we were dealing with. She wouldn't give us answers, but then she would tell us, okay, this is what I had dealt with and this is how I did it, so what do you think you can do better? So I think that way it really helped that all the professors in that matter had some sort of experience.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. These anecdotes that professors used to share with us during class and during supervision were made the classes really interesting and really informative. So this is something that I enjoyed a lot personally, and I think it had a huge contribution to what we learned beyond textbooks. So it was very important that, and all of our professors were really open about their experiences. Maxim, Aruna ma'am, they were all very open. That helped us a lot in our training.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, Sahiti. And now we have a master question by Shagun Narula. So, could they please share what they do for their personal mental well being? How do they maintain and sustain their mental health? A wonderful question. Hoping for as usual, answer from your side. Waiting.
Yeah, I think this is the most vital question, no, specifically at this time. I think everything that Montfort has taught us is that, no, that you have to take care of yourself first before you're uh, reaching out to other people. And I think in that sense, again, personal therapy and really holding back when you are going through something personal. I think for me that has been the biggest self-care technique to it's okay to say that you're going through something personal and hold back, even if it's for a week. So even when I have sessions in school, I do something lighter with the child and explain that we'll do something lighter, would that be okay, and give them a choice of something else to do, right? Because I know that there's no point for me to do something when I'm myself not feeling my best.
I think the question also came from a psychology student. Shagun's actually a alumni as well. So I think we know the importance of taking care of ourselves, and that's why the question has arisen. And I completely agree with Sneha in terms of taking a break when you need it. I think I've never been able to, put it across, but these days I'm telling everybody I meet, especially in the pandemic, it's become such a hassle, finding jobs, maintaining those jobs, being happy with the role you got, being happy with your compensation. There's so much going on in the world as well, even personal losses that people are dealing with. I think it's a lot on our head at a, you know, sudden pace, I think, and taking a break whenever you need, attending therapy. I, in fact, attend some sort of like workshops whenever possible to, that's also a way for me to gain more knowledge. And it's also a place where I can be a student again. And it's not the pressure of, oh, like I am supposed to be the responsible adult there. So I attend workshops where that's also been really helpful for me in terms of gaining knowledge. I think that's something that we could do as to take a break from work as well.
Yeah. I feel that more than taking care of ourselves, I think we have all faced this, and we need to be really patient when people, our friends, tell us, "Oh, what issues are you going through? You're a psychologist." I mean, there's nothing worse than this. I mean, when friends tell you that, you can't have problems, you're a psychologist, and then you want to explain to them that that's it's like a profession, and I'm not my profession. I'm a different. I'm somebody who practices that. So that we need to be patient with that. Well, I've seen a lot of my colleagues like get really frustrated with that. Apart from that, I feel that self-care is a very subjective thing, a very personal thing, and I agree with Sneha fully. We need to cut ourselves some slack when things are not going well in our personal lives or in our careers. And there'll be ups and downs. There'll always be hiccup. There'll always be some client that did not progress, or there'll always be some client that never returned or did not show any kind of gratitude, or things didn't work out. Basically, there was no outcome. And especially in a field like counseling, I feel we should refrain from being too outcome oriented. Once we start becoming outcome oriented, then we invest a lot of our own emotional energy into it, and then when things don't turn out as we hoped for them to turn out, yeah, we take a hit. So that is something I've learned over the years to, to, if possible, practice some amount of detachment, and if possible, and things like that. And to each his own, whatever keeps you sane, whatever keeps you happy, I think we should all do that so that we recover for the following day to see more clients the following day. So I feel
Yeah.
we all deserve some amount of leeway.
Okay, so Pawan, I think we are running out of time. I don't know whether we have more questions or
No,
are
we
we wrap?
have. Yeah, I'll be wrapping it up. Before which, we have a message for. I mean, George has sent a message for you and I, praising you and I. So I wanted to read that as well. So, thank you, Pawan, for reading out my message. Congratulations to you, Pawan, and to Vishal. Both of you have been doing your roles marvelously. Vishal, you have been a great teacher and trainer, and you have moderated the session seamlessly, adding your experiences. This is
Thank you
from
so much,
brother.
brother. Thanks a lot, brother. Of course, I will catch up with you one on one.
Sure, sure,
Yes.
sure.
Okay. So I think just to summarize, I just want to all the people who are aspiring to be school counselors, please focus on skills. I think that was one important thing. And if rather than it coming from me, it's coming from two people who have gone through the course and who are practicing as school counselors. So focus on skill is very important. Another important point that you guys brought up is understanding learning disability or learning differences. I think that's a very huge thing. And another important equally important thing is how high school students, they have so many options. They can opt out, they can have a scribe, and so many things. So to be informed about those kind of things, assertiveness is a big one that we heard today. I think before we make our clients and our students assertive, we need to be one ourselves. And child advocacy is also another big part of our jobs, I guess. So, with that, I think we should wrap it up. Thank you, Sahiti, Sneha, and Rakesh for this wonderful conversation. And good luck for all the work that you have been doing and you will be doing. Uh, have a nice evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
To
much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pawan,
and
Vishal.
Neha,
Bye,
Saiti,
Sneha.
Varsha,
I have a
Princey.
few things to say, sir. I
Sure.
have one thing
Yeah,
to
please,
say.
please go
It's
ahead.
like there are teachers in the college or schools where they prepare students for the universities, big universities. But therapists like you people are preparing those children to face the universe. So that's a wonderful thing you people are doing, and I appreciate you all for that. And Vishal, ma'am, you have been a wonderful support. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And
you, Pawan.
okay, now that the session for today is over, the next week we will be meeting the entrepreneurs, and that would be the next topic of discussion. And we'll be meeting moderators from there and panelists from there who will be talking about their experiences in those fields. With that being said, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much once again.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank
time.
you.
Bye,
Thank you,
people. Bye,
everybody.
all of you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.